Hey, let's do some math about how to simplify a radical like this. So the square root of 50, x to the 6, y to the 11th. What I would do is take this 50 over here, the square root of 50, and I would simplify that first and just don't even pay any attention to the x and the y right now. So let's simplify the square root of 50. So we're breaking it into factors. What I chose was 5 and 10. 5 times 10 is 50. And then this 5 is that 5, but 10 breaks down to 5 times 2 again. And with a square root, if you have two of a kind, you bring that number on the outside of the radical and then have a 2 left over that's on the inside. So because I had two of a kind, I can kind of mark through those and put that on the outside, and then there is a 2 left over. Now you can't break that 2 down any further because 2 is just 2 times 1. So once a number is prime, you know you're done. So 5 times square root of 2. So I come back up here and I write 5, and I leave space here. I filled this in now. I'll explain why in just a second. But I write down the 5. I leave some space here for the variables, and then I put the 2 that I got right there. And think about this not being here right now. So I'm going to explain where these variables came from. So with the square root, it's like you have a secret 2 here, and you're going to divide. 2 goes into 6 3 times, so this is x to the third there. And because it goes evenly, I don't have an x underneath here. 2 goes into 6 3 times with no remainder. So I just have an x on the outside. But watch with the y, okay? So there's a 2 here, secret 2 here. 2 goes into 11 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10, but there's 1 left over, so I'm going to have a y to the first power underneath the radical. Now, you don't have to write the 1, but I did just because of teaching purposes here. And then this is times. So the answer is 5x to the third, y to the fifth times the square root of 2y. So we're dividing. So there's a secret 2 here and a square root. If it were a cube root, you'd be dividing by 3. But it's a square root, so 2 goes into 6 3 times, and there's no remainder. That's why there's no x value under here, because it went evenly. And then 2 goes into 11 5 times, with 1 left over. 2 times 5 is 10, but it's 11, so it's 1 more left over, so it's y to the first underneath there. Now, this is how you would simplify this, assuming that the x value, the variables are positive. And if you're in an advanced algebra class, you would end up putting this x to the cube term in absolute values. And the reason for that is that if x was a negative number here, of course, a negative number raised to a 6th power is a positive. But if you had a negative number here, a negative number cubed ends up being a negative out here. So you would, if you were doing it that way, which most classes don't make you put the absolute value in here. It'd only be an advanced class that would do it. Then this x to the third would be in absolute values there. But the y would not be, because this is odd here. So a negative number raised to an odd power is negative. So it's okay for this to be a negative number raised to an odd power. That would be negative as well. So anyway, don't worry about that unless you have to. In fact, comment if you need to see some clarification on that. If your teacher's requiring the absolute values, they're requiring you to put the absolute value in the problems, then that's great, but that's an advanced class. I'll be glad to answer some questions on that, maybe put a video up for that. Otherwise, that is how you simplify a radical.